Hey everybody, this is Mike from Kill Lincoln. Thank you so much for tuning in to Supernova at Home Quarantine Festival, and thanks to Cooley and Tim for asking us to be a part of it. Also, thank you for supporting the Alpha Institute in Kingston. The video you're about to see is some never-before-seen live footage of Kill Lincoln's tour last year in Japan. This video is actually from Osaka, where we played with our good friends SMN and Free Kick. So enjoy Figure It Out Summer Sanders from Osaka, Japan.
Okay, Osaka, now we're gonna have a dance party, okay? DC dance party. Feels like it's fixing action. Try to do what's right while you toss and turn, right round the crash and burn. Things will never change. Try to do no guns to worry. Think this bullshit thing is solid. Well, I've had enough. Not sorry.
Hello! Welcome to another edition of Ska Talk with Mr. Kingpin. I am your host, Johnny Bravo, aka Mr. Kingpin, and today we have Mike Sosinski from all the way from the West Coast right now.
All the way.
All the way. And you would know him in such things as Kill Lincoln, Bad Time Records, and other various things. Look at that. Tim Hildebrand's already jumped in. Yay!
Timmy. Hi, Timmy. Yeah, thanks, Johnny, for having me on. It's good to be here. Good to talk ska. I'm always happy to talk ska.
Always. That's what we do. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, that's our purpose.
So, thank you for coming on. It was a great show, and we'll see you later. All right,
guys. Good night. That was great.
Lots of things. We talked about all kinds of stuff. All right. Well, let's get into it. Yeah. I'm usually pretty good about looking at what's happening in the news of ska this week, but I think this week was a slow ska week. So,
slowish. Yeah. On the slower side. Yeah.
There's a lot of cat bite news.
Always cat bite news.
That's for sure.
Yes.
Cat bite just like blew out of the gate with that very cool video and the album that's selling like hotcakes.
Yeah, it's selling like hotcakes. It's out on August 6th. I just did my sales pitch for it. It's great. Yeah, cat bite. I mean, they deserve it. That album. Wait till you hear it. It's fantastic. They live in those both worlds. They can do rock steady, they can be punk, they can be all this stuff. Like they really wait till you hear it. It's fantastic. So,
and speaking of that, they had a really good podcast episode that was in defense of ska. I listened to it the other night. I was like, got a lot of insight. And
I just finished it while I was at the gym.
I did some crossover insight on Bad Time, and we'll get into that in a little bit. And the other thing that's notable to mention for anybody watching is that Supernova International Ska Festival is sold out. September 17th through the 19th. But there is still a way for you to watch it. They are looking into live streaming. So, and we're talking like multi-camera pro live stream. So, if you guys are interested in that, I highly suggest you go to supernovaska.com/livestream and just kind of put your name on the list that you're interested in that, because they're still just kind of like looking into it. And if you get your name on the list, you will get a discount when they finally kind of lock down all the details. So now everybody can go to Supernova.
Yay. That makes me happy, because I wasn't gonna go this year. I was scared off last year. I was like, no, I shouldn't buy the tickets. We shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad it's happened. I'm so glad it's sold out. It's such a rad festival, and I'll be watching for sure.
Yeah. And there was some overlap with other festivals, right? So now people that are going to Riot Fest can also catch this on the flippity flop.
Yeah.
So I think that's about it for news. So now we're going to talk all about Mike. Now the rest of this show, all about Mike.
Ugh. Yuck, tune out now.
Oh,
Save
God.
Ugh.
So, as always, I like to start at the very beginning just to get an idea of why you're crazy enough to do all the things you do now.
I don't know.
So, let us please know how you got into ska, and kind of like what was your intro to ska and all that good stuff.
Before we went live, I was telling you that, I've answered that question a bunch, but like, I feel like there's so many different angles that ska came at me aggressively in weird ways. When I was, so I was a singer, early on, like my mom was like, you can sing, you're going to be in chorus in elementary school, you're going to do all this. So I was in chorus and all that stuff. But I think when I was 13, middle school, a couple of my friends were in a band, and it was like a big band. And I think they had all been formed by like a similar music teacher. He was trying to put people together just to like make connections and all that stuff. And they brought me in to sing, but they also didn't have a bass player. So I was like, well, I'll just kind of figure it out. Somebody had a bass, and I was just like, let's figure it out. We just played some easy songs, but we were doing like, I don't know, we were doing like big band, like art, rhythm and blues stuff. Like we would do like, I don't know, we played like some Chicago songs. Like we were trying to play like Bruce Springsteen songs. We did like, 10th Avenue Freeze Out and stuff. And like, but we were kids, so we were like trying to do our best impressions of that kind
was
of
this
stuff.
through high school? Like it was a high school jazz band? Or?
No, it wasn't through school. It was through like a local music center, like a music shop. And they had, they did lessons there, and there was a guy there, I think an older guy. He was like, I want to just, get some of these kids together. It was like, he just put us in a room and he's like, all right, try and learn this one. We're like, okay, we'll try and learn it. So we had this music teacher, Sal, who was introducing us to some of this music. But then, we played for a while, and we got to play some, small gigs here and there. We played like a county fair or something. But then, the guys in the band who were the horn players, they're like, well, what's like cool music with horns now? And this was, late 90s. They're like, it's ska. Oh, check this out. Hey, check out this song Sellout by Real Big Fish. Check out the song The Impression That I Get by the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. And they bring that to practice. And I'd be like, oh, well, this is kind of cool. Like, yeah, I can try to sing this. Like, oh yeah, I can try to learn this on bass. Sellout was a little easier than The Impression That I Get, but I learned both. That was one of my introductions to ska, was through my friends that played horns that were like, hey, we're 13. We want to do something cool, but we play a horn. Like, what's cool right now? And then also,
was that during the boom, or was this after the fact?
That was literally like, that was 1999. So I guess that was right after the boom, I guess, or like kind of still in it, but maybe just after, you know? We also did, we did like Zoot Suit Riot, so like we'd play some swing stuff too, because we had horn players. But I was also into skateboarding, so like, I think an X Games compilation really like turned me onto the Boss Tones and bands like the Descendants and even like 311, like all that kind of stuff. Hey. It's all in there. And then also my aunt got me a tape for like Christmas when I was like 12 or 13, whatever. And it was Smash Mouth. It was the first Smash Mouth record. And I would play that tape. I didn't have a lot of tapes. And I listened to it and I really liked it. And I was like, oh, this is like fast and fun. And I didn't realize until a lot later, actually, like that's a ska punk record, that first Smash Mouth record. Totally. It's just like a speedy, like kind of Southern California skate punk, ska punk record. And like that really, I don't know, that got wheels turning in my head about the kind of music I liked. And then, as I was also telling you earlier, I was in New Jersey. So, coming up in New Jersey, as soon as we discovered ska punk, we were like, well, who's playing ska punk around here? And there was Catch-22. We started learning, we learned a couple of Catch-22 songs. We played Keysby Nights. We played Riding the Fourth Wave, which all the horn players were excited about because they had to, they got to play a little solo and everything. And we were lucky enough to open for Catch-22 a handful of times. Eventually, once we started playing more original stuff. But yeah, so that was my early indoctrination. And, those were I started going to shows. I think the Boss Tones were at Birch Hill in New Jersey. It was one of the first ska shows I ever went to. And then, followed by soon after, Mustard Plug and Big D were touring. So I got to see Mustard Plug for the first time, which blew my mind. I was like, wow, just like the live show, like the energy, it was just like crazy. And to be at a show and like be with a group of people who were like, let's just dance, let's just have fun. Like just that environment was so much fun to me, and different than anything I'd ever experienced. So yeah, that's how I got bit by the bug, and it just never stopped. And of course that all led me into different avenues of ska that led me to Asian Man Records, and I would just order one thing from Asian Man Records and like a whole box would come and there'd be stickers and who's this band? Who's Kamuri? Who's the Blue Moon? Who are the Blue Meanies? Like go check all this stuff out. And that was the first time I really just devoured a label's catalog, So that's what taught me what a record label was. Wow. And then, I got into Stomp Records, got into the Planet Smashers and, it just ballooned from there. And of course, what I think happens with a lot of people is ska punk turned me onto ska, but then I got into more roots, like traditional ska. You know, I got into Toots and the Maytals. I got into Desmond Decker and Prince Buster. And, you know, I actually started buying records. You know, I dig through bins, and I was so excited. One of my first finds was I found a Prince Buster. It was the Prince Buster Fabulous record. And it actually had the stamp on it from Prince Buster's Record Shack in Jamaica. And
That's so sweet.
I was like, oh wow, like this is cool, right? Like I was a early collector, but I was like, oh hell yeah! Like I picked it up, and it was it was cheap too. I was like, oh, $10, like I can start a record collection. Little did I know, it's like hundreds and hundreds of dollars later. Like, exactly. Yeah, it's an addiction.
But throw that record on Discogs now and see how much you can get for it.
Yeah, dude. I would never though. It's like right. That's one of those. I would never. But yeah, you could, right? But yeah, so I'm still, I'm still trying to be active and trying to listen to new ska, weird ska, traditional ska, like everything in between.
What classifies? What's weird ska?
Have you ever listened to Gray Matter from Michigan?
No.
They're weird ska. No. So they're. I mean, bands like, I mentioned the Blue Meanies, like bands who take ska, like it's hard to, well, what is a ska band anymore, right? Like
Blue Meanies is its own animal.
Yeah, but they're definitely playing some ska, like they're ska influence, but there's also heavy jazz influence. Like they're playing ska and like odd time signatures.
Right. And I can always tell when a band was influenced by the Blue Meanies. And that's a compliment if you compare them to Blue Meanies.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a band in Chicago. Gosh, I wish I remember the name now. That totally was just like influenced by them. And then here in Dallas, we had a band called Top Hat Ted that very influenced by the Blue Meanies. But
I love that. I mean, it's just to even attempt to play that style is like there's so much going on there.
Yeah.
Same thing with like, some ska core. I guess the Blue Meanies kind of range into ska core a little bit because it gets pretty heavy and weird and dissonant. But, bands like in New Jersey, you had Folly, who actually blend metalcore and ska. Something you wouldn't expect because I had a lot of friends who were into like the metal scene, like the hardcore scene. And, they'd go to shows and it's all kids like windmilling, and just like crazy riffs. But then like, I found a band like Folly and I could put that on for my metal friends and they'd be like, oh, this is great. And then they'd get to the breakdown and it's ska. It's all upstrokes and it's, walking bass lines. And they're like, oh, you can do this? Like you can mix these things. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. That helped me just sort of relate to, my friends in that scene. That helped them kind of relate back to me. And I always thought that was something cool about bands who could kind of blend ska with different styles. So, but that's all weird ska.
Weird, yeah. I think I used to call that psycho ska.
Yeah. Psycho ska for sure. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So, at some point you moved to DC, and did you pick up on the bands that were playing at that point? Because seems like you were pretty dialed in right away. I think that's a unique perspective, though, already being a musician and then getting pulled into ska. So it was pretty seamless for you to... Most kids like me got into ska and then, I got to learn how to play this kind of music.
Well, I had to learn how to play. I mean, I wouldn't call myself a musician what I was doing at 13, man. Like I was rough, like I didn't know what I was doing for a long time. I still feel like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But going to DC was, so I went to DC for school. And as soon as I get to school, I'm like, I got to find musicians. I got to start a new band, and I got to find people who like ska punk. And it was hard. Like it was so hard to find people. I mean, it's hard to find people in, in these like subcultures, subgenres in the first place. But it was tough. But I met a guy, my buddy Matt Hotez, early on. And I was like, oh, you like ska? He played trombone. I was like, oh, you like ska? He's like, yeah, I like ska. I was like, you like kind of like punk and hardcore? He's like, I love punk and hardcore and metal and thrash and gypsy jazz and funk. And like, he's an incredible musician, Matt Hotez. He's not in Kill Lincoln anymore, but he does all kinds of side projects and works with a lot of people. But and he actually lives in he lives in Tucson now, but for a while he lived in Texas.
Oh, really?
And I think he played with a band down there for a little bit. But anyway, Yeah, I met Hotez and we formed Kill Lincoln. And, I met Tyler Rogers, the drummer. I met him on a Streetlight Manifesto message board, which is kind of an awkward thing to like, meet people from the internet in real life. But yeah, the three of us started the band and, just tried to play out whenever we could. And it was a tough town. Like, even though like, a band like the Pie Tasters, who owned Ska in DC, who still owned Ska in DC and are such an incredible band,
Yeah.
the fact that they can mix like soul and ska, but they still feel like when you see the Pie Tasters, like it feels like a punk rock show to me,
Oh, yeah.
man. Like it's a sweaty, like like beer drenched, like punk rock show, which is what I love about the Pie Tasters. And despite that, I felt like it was tough for us to break into the ska scene in DC. It felt like when we started playing together, which was maybe 2008,
Okay.
it was tough to find our circle, because there's a DIY punk scene in DC, but they didn't want to have anything to do with us.
Huh.
As soon as they found out we were playing ska, they were like, no thanks. And also, there's a traditional ska scene that probably was like, no thanks. Like they really didn't want to have anything to do with us. So it was tough. Like we just would book our own shows, nobody would come. Book our own shows, nobody would come. Book our own shows, 5 people would come. Book another show, 10 people. So we started to like build something on our own and with other strange bands, bands that were like doing punk, but kind of in a weird way. There's a band called Booze Riot who we came up with, who were kind of doing their own kind of like, we don't give a shit what kind of music you play. Like we'll play with you.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering if you got to play many shows with some of those the big DC bands like Players Band or
eventually
Pie Tasters, and yeah.
So it took us a while, but eventually, we got to play with the Pie Tasters. We did a show at the 930 Club with them one year. I think it was maybe 8 years ago. They invited us on, and we just had a blast. And since then, we've played with them a bunch. Steve has always been in our corner. Like, I feel like even though we play maybe a different brand of ska, like he's always been a huge supporter, which has been awesome. I love Steve and I love the Pie Tasters. Also, a band like Eastern Standard Time. I love Eastern Standard Time. Reed Adway, who's used to play Murphy's Kids. We play with Murphy's Kids a lot. We play with Eastern Standard Time a bunch. I always tried, when I booked shows, I always tried to like, mix it up, not just make it all ska punk bands. So one of my favorite shows, which I got posters up here on my wall, was Kill Lincoln, Eastern Standard Time, and a band called Walk the Plank, who's just like kind of like a crazy like hardcore punk band. But we kind of had those like 3 totally kind of different styles, but in one show, and I think everybody had a great time. So
I think that's something that doesn't happen enough.
Mm-hmm.
And where
agreed,
a big mixed audience. I know. I think on the internet they are talking to death about all that stuff, but I think it's nice to mix it up, because then you're introducing different people to different things.
Yep.
And even separately of different ska genres, just to have a mixed bill.
Yep.
And it's something that should happen more,
Agreed. Yeah. Agreed, man. I mean, there's something about obviously about different styles. Like if you like ska punk, you're gonna probably have, you're gonna like I don't know, you're gonna like hardcore probably. There might be some bands where you're like, oh, well, like I can kind of dance during this part, I can 2-step during the breakdown, like that's fun. But also you're gonna love like, the energy of like a traditional ska show is like can be through the roof sometimes. And like watching a band like Eastern Standard Time, like I felt like we played after them and I was like, fuck, like I don't want to play after Eastern Standard Time. Like they rule. And there's just so much energy in that show. And that's what attracted me to ska, like the energy, and that's why I like hardcore. That's why I like most high energy types of music, or music that just have a lot of feeling, a lot of soul. So like that's what I like about it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, obviously Kill Lincoln has a very you guys have a sound. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty established sound that you guys have. I was listening through I was binging your albums all week,
Thank you,
And
man.
what are some of the biggest influences that you guys are drawing from
Yeah.
for your music?
I mean, early on, it was like those bands I listed, like the Boss Tones, and Catch 22. I think something about like the energy of Catch 22, early Catch 22. I mean, the first two albums, Alone in the Crowd,
I love, yeah.
is one of my favorite albums. And then, as and also early on, I was influenced by some like pop punk because it was very accessible to me. It was like very like bands like a band like I wasn't like a Newfound Glory fan, but like bands like Set Your Goals, who were like pop punk, but like you can like kind of get it. Like it's very like I don't know, it's like very easy to grasp the melody in the and what they're doing, but then they'll mix in some like hardcore elements.
Yeah,
it kind of makes you feel tough, and I'm like, oh cool, like I'm a tough guy in this part. So I kind of grasped onto some of that stuff.
I hear some Less Than Jake. Like personally, when I hear it,
of course,
I'm like, there's some things I'm like, and I mean that in a great way.
Sure,
like,
I'm not insulted by that. Of course, there's some Less Than Jake in there, and like, yeah, Less Than Jake is a band that I got into probably a little later than some of those other bands, but I think anytime you're singing, we get compared to Less Than Jake a lot, but anytime you're singing in a high tenor and you're singing melodic music over like ska mixed with punk, it's like, yeah, you sound like Roger, and it's like, well, yeah, I'm singing kind of high, and it's like, and I'm singing, actually catchy melodies, I hope. So, but yeah, I welcome the Less Than Jake comparison, and like, yeah, they're one of my favorite bands to do it, of course, and like we just did the split with them, and that was a dream come true, and something I never expected would have happened. And it was a total shock to me and the band. So
yeah, I guess the times that it hits me, I was like, oh man, that's like very Less Than Jake is when you're doing the ska skank over the halftime beat.
Oh
that's
yeah,
that's like a that's a very Less Than Jakey kind of thing. So
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I always felt like that was like I don't know where I would get that from, but like
it's a neat breakdown.
I always wished I could write more like the RX Bandits or something, in like what's the song? Like Progress.
Yeah.
Like how they're doing like the halftime over. I love that kind of stuff. Like, but I don't know. Musically, my brain works in a more simple way, I guess.
For lack of a better term.
Yeah. I wish I could do some of that crazy shit, but yeah, I try. But
math's it's hard.
It's tough.
It's hard to listen to.
Sometimes
it's challenging because yeah,
but doesn't always make sense.
So tell us, how did this come about, this split with Less Than Jake?
Yeah, JR hit me up. We have a mutual friend, Dante, who is their tour manager, and he often plays in Joystick, and Dante tour managed.
Yeah, I know Dante.
I'm sure you know Dante. Yeah, he tour managed the Kill Lincoln Joystick tour, and like, yeah, Dante's great. And I think he hit me up one night and was just like, "Hey, is it cool if I give JR from Less Than Jake your phone number?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's cool. That's fine." And he was like, "Yeah, I think he like wants to do something with Kill Lincoln or something." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." So JR texted me. He's like, "Hey, like, let's talk." So we talked on the phone. He's like, "Yeah, like, I was thinking like we haven't done a split in a long time. We're not, I don't want to give away any of their pressing plans for the rest of the year, but he's like, we've got some stuff planned, but like, we've got some time that year to like maybe do something. Like, do you want to do something with Kill Lincoln? Like, do you want to do a split with Kill Lincoln?" I was like, it was like asking me if like I wanted to like, here, do you want to take everything from Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory? And it's like, yeah, of course. So yeah, I was like, absolutely. Then he was like, well, I was like, okay, so how would this work? Like, would Pure Noise want to do it? He's like, no, I want to do it on Bad Time. And I was like, that was the big shock to me. And I think when I would tell, I told the guys in the band, I was like, hey, Less Than Jake wants to do a split. And they're like, wow, like what label's it going to be on? I was like, it'll be on Bad Time. So that was a little bit surprising to me, but also extremely cool. And yeah, like big props to JR for reaching out. Like it was his idea. He reached out to me and wanted to do it. And, we kind of took it from there.
Great tune.
Thank you so much.
It's a great tune. It's Going Under.
Thank you.
It's the name of the tune. Yeah. And I'm sure if you guys already haven't, you should definitely go check it out.
Thank you, dude. And the Less Than Jake song is killer too. It needs some shaking. I think that's one of my favorite Less Than Jake songs in a while. Super catchy and fun. And yeah, it was just such a cool project. I didn't expect it to happen, and here we are. Yeah. It's a real thing. I have it in my hands.
I am a unabashed Less Than Jake fan. And early on, when, like everybody else gets into it in the mid 90s or whatever, like, I don't know, Real Big Fish was not my cup of tea, even like in the beginning, but Less Than Jake was definitely. And I actually had a buddy, I was living in New York at the time, and I had a buddy that had the demo tape they had before Pezcore. And,
wow.
And he gave me a copy of it. So that's what I would binge on that.
Hell yeah.
So
throw that up on Discogs, man. That's a pretty penny right now, I'm sure.
I wish it was an original, but I guess they aren't originals. It just kind of got passed around or whatever, but
right.
Wow. But yeah, I love Less Than Jake. And my band at the time, Rude King, got to open for them one time in Dallas, which was
fantastic.
Like a dream come true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kill Lincoln got to open for them once, and it was a small venue. They were doing like a run of small shows down to Florida from like New York. So we played this 400 cap room with them, and of course it sold out in a minute. And it's just like, yeah, wild.
Might have been the same year, because it
might have been, yeah.
Because the room that they were in Dallas was trees. It was kind of like a 800 cap room or 900.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this was maybe 2012, 13, somewhere around there.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, might have been the same run. Yeah, nobody. Something about the way Less Than Jake has done ska punk. I don't know. It just feels so goddamn fun, and they can be goofy. They've like struck this awesome balance between being able to be kind of goofy and do weird shit, but also like the songs are serious.
Oh
like,
yeah,
they're singing about depression, and they're singing about complacency and all this stuff, but like they'll shoot you in the face with the toilet paper gun. And it's like, it's such a cool mix. I've always appreciated the way they've done that. And,
I feel like their last couple albums have just been some of their best stuff.
Yeah. Never missed a step.
So in terms of touring, you guys stay pretty active. You get around. I mean,
we used to, we used to do like 2-3 weekers, here and there. And, we did a couple back and forth, we'd go to the West Coast and back. The past couple years, well, after 2015, we took a bit of a hiatus because I moved to California. And at that time, we were all just in different places with our personal lives, and stuff was starting to get busy. We're getting day jobs and relationships and stuff. And we were tired of practicing a couple times a week and or once a week, whatever. It felt like a couple times. So we were ready for a little bit of a break in 2015, and we had just put out an EP. But then something about moving out here and sort of being away from it for a little bit, made us just want to hit it harder. It's we realized we kind of missed each other.
Hey, sometimes even the gigantic bands do that. They just kind of take a break. You kind of forget about them for a minute, and then they just all of a sudden there's just a new album pops out.
Yeah, something like that. And we had a couple new members sort of come into the band that brought some new energy and some new life. And we kind of started to hit it hard. We would do a couple weekender tours, and we'd fly out and do, we did 4 or 5 shows in California, and they would come out, and then I'd go back there and we'd do an East Coast run or something like that. And we got to play some pretty cool gigs the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, that video we played before the show began.
Yeah,
that was in
going to
Japan. What the heck?
Man, that's something I never expected would happen. Luckily we got hooked up. So Ume, is our Japanese trombone player, trombone player first. He is such an awesome guy, and he's a guy who's kind of bounced around the DC ska scene. He's sat in with all kinds of bands, and he hooked us up with some Japanese labels and some friends over there, and we were able to put out our record in Japan. Takahashi at 1138 Punk Mart put out Can't Complain there, and we got to go in 2019, and wow, it just blew my mind. Every show was just like, people were just so excited to, I don't think anybody actually knew who Kill Lincoln was, like maybe a handful, like just everyone was acting like, we were the Suicide Machines or something. Like they were like, wow, so into it and so excited, and the shows were selling out and packed, and the hospitality was fantastic. And everyone said it was going to be like going to ska punk Disneyland, and they were right. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I think there's an appreciation that they have for the music. Yeah. Who was it? Oh gosh, it was on a past episode. Mm-hmm. We were talking about the fact that the audience was just kind of chilling out, sitting down on the floor, like everybody was just kind of calm. And who was I talking to for that? Or maybe I heard it in another podcast, but everybody's just relaxed, like very low key, and they thought it was gonna, like, they were gonna bomb, and then as soon as the music starts, it's just like rush the stage.
Yeah. Similar experience. Oh man, we were so nervous. Like we get there in our first show in Tokyo, and we're like, God, like, I don't know, we're jet lagged a little bit. We're like not really feeling ourselves. We're playing on different equipment. It's like we did a sound check, and like luckily we had Ume there because like he's kind of helping us translate.
Yeah.
But even just like running a sound check, just when you don't understand what the sound engineer is saying, you're just a little like, what's going on? But yeah, it was so great. I mean, people just had so much fun, and the energy was so positive. So positive, so kind. And the bands we were playing with, Free Kick, SMN, Not So Hard Work, and Quick Dead, was just like instant friendship. Like you don't need to understand what we're saying. Like we're all playing this music, and we just want to have a good time. And there's just like instant, lifelong friendships formed, and we don't even have to really understand each other. We just had to understand Psycho, which means awesome, and eventually Mabudachi, which means best friend. So like that's what we survived on throughout the tour. Just psycho. Your set was psycho. Like that kind of stuff. So
that's really cool. That's I'm sure that's an experience that's like a one in a lifetime type of thing.
I hope it's not once. I hope we go back. But,
that's on my bucket list. My bucket list would just be to attend a ska show in Japan. There's so many great bands over there.
Oh also. My God, there's so many. I mean, Tokyo Ska Paradise, or Ska Band. Dude, there's just so many.
I got to see Kamuri because I attended the original Ska Against Racism tour back in the late 90s.
Yeah. That's incredible.
They were there. That's the only reason why I got to see them.
That's so rad. I wish I could see him. Yeah, never seen Kamuri. Or Pot Shot, another one of my favorite bands. Love Pot Shot.
And I know we were talking before the show too that you actually been down to Dallas before. You played at Ska by Ska West, which is a ska fest run by Mark Kimberlin from Madeline.
Yeah.
And apparently you were double booked or something, and you had to.
Well, we weren't double booked. We had a long ass drive.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to remember if we were going east, then from Dallas we would have probably. I mean, we might have been driving right to New Orleans.
I was about to say,
yeah, most likely. But yeah, we played early in the day. I think we played like first or second or something. What was it, like 8 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, we both felt pretty old when we were contemplating what year that was.
It's happening. But yeah, it was great, and we've been through. That was our only time playing Dallas, but we've played Houston a couple times, and we played Austin. I think
hopefully after this nonsense is all over, we can have you guys back over here.
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but we'll be back there for sure.
Oh,
It's actually a certainty that we'll be back.
there you go. You heard it first. I broke the story.
You broke the big news. But yeah, we're anxiously waiting to announce some stuff. But we got some stuff planned. It's gonna be great.
Cool.
Wow.
We got some people in here that have been chatting, and sorry I haven't gotten back to you, but Midnight Goodwin is just commenting on. He had the same thought I did when you were talking about when you got put together as youngsters playing. I was like, oh, School of Rock.
It was very School of Rock. It was like proto School of Rock.
Exactly.
Right? It's like that became a thing, but they were trying to do it before that. Yeah.
Yeah. And Esteban Flores, what's up?
Esteban, what's up? Esteban is like,
oh my gosh.
I don't know. Me and Esteban have actually never even like formally hung out. I've seen Matamoska at, what was it? It was in Southern California Festival.
Maybe Ska Wars.
Skamacon. It was Skamacon. Yeah, I know. It's like, which one? Which terrible name is it? Yeah, it was Skamacon. But we didn't really get to hang out, and I didn't really know him that well. But yeah, Esteban is like the link between all worlds, like the Latin ska world and like ska punk and trad ska. Like he's in everything. I know he was on your record, which is fantastic, by the way.
He's all over the. Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And I call him Esteban.
Yeah,
but that's the Spanish. No, that's either way. Either way is fine.
I'm sure I'm saying it wrong.
You're not. But yeah, he's everywhere. He's going to be playing with Catbite
record. Yeah, he's on the Catbite record. He's on the We Are the Union record. I would have asked him to be on the Kill Lincoln record, but like I just forgot that keys would have been a cool thing to add. It was such a stressful time recording our record because it was like right at the beginning of the pandemic. I was just like, let's just get it done and finish it, But maybe in the future, Esteban, I'm going to hit you up about Kill Lincoln stuff.
How was that? How was that recording an album during the pandemic?
It was fucked up. It was terrifying, dude. Like we had these plans to record. We recorded district recording in San Jose. And, so all the guys from DC had to fly out. I'm the only one who's in California. Everybody else is in DC, or CJ was in Connecticut at the time, but now he's in Virginia. But we had these plans for like months, and just like watching the news and like, oh, is this going to happen? Like, they're going to shut down airports. Like, what's going on? So, but everybody made it out. And it was before we knew like what was actually happening or like how bad things were. It was like early March. So like we knew that COVID was a thing, but we didn't know like how bad it was.
You made it in under the wire.
We really did, dude. Because actually it was like the third day of recording was when California announced shelter in place. And we were like, what does that mean? Like, does that mean like you guys can't fly home? Does that mean like you're stuck here and have to live in the house with me and my wife? Like, what does that mean? Like, we were just like freaking out. And once we kind of figured out like, okay, it means like we're supposed to stay put and stay in our circle. We realized, we're with our recording engineer, Ryan Paris. And we're like, well, we've all been around each other. Like, he's like, if you guys want to finish this off, like, that's cool with me. Like, as long as we didn't go anywhere else. We went from my house to the studio and back. And we finished it off, and then the guys very nervously flew home, like not really knowing what to expect. This was before masks were even a thing. This was during wash your hands. This was like, hey, make sure you wash your hands. So we were just like washing. Dude, I was washing my hands to the point where when it came to time to record guitar, I was cutting up my fingers because my hands were so dry, like just on the strings. So I was like, I had my strings, like my fingers like bandaged up while I was doing guitars for the record. It was rough. Yeah, we got it done under the wire. Right before things got really bad. So I'm very thankful for that.
I actually was also in California right before. Like that's when we started tracking our rhythm section stuff. Or my album was like late February, early March.
Oh
shit. It was like the week before they started doing the lockdowns and stuff. And I mean, gosh, Hopefully we're starting to get on the other side of this. I mean, how do you feel about shows? I know shows are being booked. I'm kind of happy to see it.
Yeah, I'm super happy to see it. The venues need it. You know, the industry workers need it. Bands need it. You know, it's up to showgoers whether they feel safe. You know, whether you're vaccinated, please go get vaccinated if you haven't. If you're watching this, I feel like, you know, if you're gonna get it, you should get it. You know, I feel okay about it. As long as people are vaccinated and coming out and not putting anyone in danger, let's do it. You know, because we have to get back to playing music and people's livelihoods depend on it.
Yep.
But also we got to be safe, you know, but I think if you're vaccinated and you're out there, like, have a good time, you know, just be safe about it, you know? So
yeah,
I'm happy shows are coming back. Of course I'm happy about it.
Definitely. Yeah.
I've been very tentative to book stuff, and that's why you probably won't see, like, you know, Kill Lincoln. We've thought, like, let's be on the back half of stuff, you know, let's let some people kind of figure it out and see how it's going. But stuff's coming.
That's good.
We're just trying to be cautious.
So I have Acoustic Bandit saying hello.
That's Tyler.
Oh, it's Tyler.
that's the drummer. Yeah, in Kill Lincoln.
Oh, right on. So he saw us he saw Rude King in Tropicalia. We played in DC one day.
Hell yeah.
On an East Coast tour. That was a while ago. So
that wasn't Blue Beat, right? That was just Tropicalia.
It was Tropicalia was with Duncan's band.
Yeah, the Shifters. Yeah. Matt Ellis, who plays in Kill Lincoln, used to play in the Shifters.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, there's always those connections, right?
Yeah, big time. I played I'll take this opportunity to say that I played drums in a trad. We played some trad ska and rocksteady, but more like mod kind of two-tone stuff. It was the singer was Kaz Gardner from the Chicker
really?
Caps. Yep. And Bill Dempsey from Eastern Standard Time played keys. Bill Wade was a trombone player. He's been in a bunch of bands in DC. Yeah, I played drums in that, and I'm sure they said that I played too fast, but I tried. I tried to hone my trad chops in that band. So
wow, that's really cool.
Connected.
You're a Renaissance man. What don't you play?
It's more like do a lot of stuff like poorly.
Got it.
Jack of all trades, master of none, I guess.
That's right. Scott Toon Network popped in.
Yeah,
for a second, said hello, and then Tazy Phillips saying hello to everybody there.
Tazy, awesome.
Yep, talked to Tazy just a couple weeks ago, as a matter of fact.
Yep, Tazy's been doing it for a long time. He's keeping it going.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So man, so you're, pun intended, you're killing it with Kill Lincoln. And then you decide to re-release your album and create a label. What are you thinking, man? Jumping into label work.
Dumb as hell. No, so I knew that, you know, we were on a label for a little while, and you know, they were a hardworking label, but didn't really. Not everything was perfect, you know. I'm sure that happens with a lot of indie labels. So I knew we wanted to put Good Riddance to Good Advice, our EP, on vinyl. You know, it never got a full vinyl release. You know, we put it out on CD, but it never got a full vinyl release. So I figured, you know, I know so many good bands. Like, I've toured and played with so many awesome bands around the country that just like haven't really gotten their due, like haven't really been approached by anybody or picked up by any label. I was like, why don't I start a label, a community, a collective? Like, we already had it, you know, like us and bands like The Best of the Worst and Catbite's earlier band. So Tim's earlier band, The Snails, like we used to play all the time. Fantastic band. They played at my wedding. So like we had this community already. But I figured, well, if I start a label, maybe that'll just kind of like formalize it. You know, we could all work together and back each other up and work together and book shows. And that's kind of how it happened. You know, I put out the Kill Lincoln record, and it did okay. Kill Lincoln had some fans, and we sold a couple records, and then put out the We Are the Union reissue, and that did even better. And then Catbite came along. They were the first new band on Bad Time to put out a new full original album, and man, I was blown away the first time I saw Tim post about Catbite. They did their Little Richard cover.
Yeah,
I was like, man, just like this, it's just like rock and roll, with the trad ska, rock steady, like. I don't know. It's just such a cool blend. And I hit up Tim right away as soon as I saw that cover. I was like, man, like perfect timing. Like I'm starting a label. Like, do you guys want to work together? And we knew each other just well enough to kind of like trust each other to like work on it, And that first Catbite album, like anybody watching hasn't listened to it, which you got to go back and hear it. It's fantastic. But with this new album coming out, they've like actually developed their sound. And I feel like it's the first time they're really finding what they're supposed to sound like. The first album was like an experiment, and the next album was like, it's full on, man. It's so good. But anyway, but yeah, Bad Time just kind of came together like organically. Like after Catbite, I would be like, oh, like, this band Dissidente from Pittsburgh, I've played with them. Like their album's rad. Yeah, I'll put out that EP. And then I put together The Shape of Ska Punk to Come, which was always just a funny play on The Shape of Punk to Come and The Shape of Jazz to Come. And, I thought it would piss off some like, rock and roll metal people if I copied the Refused artwork, thought it would maybe like, get a little bit of bad press that would turn into like, oh,
right.
here's ska doing like something cool. But yeah, that came together. So that was an opportunity to put some of my favorite bands on the thing. Joystick, Jay Navarro and the Traders, who are an excellent band.
Yep.
Still Alive, No Such Noise. Anyway, so that was a good opportunity to do that. Comps are always really important to me. And yeah, I just kept talking to my friends and finding new bands. And, I talked to the Best of the Worst, and they're like, yeah, we're working on stuff. I'm like, all right, well, you want to put it out? And they're like, yeah, we've got this side project called Thirsty Guys. Do you want to work with that? And Thirsty Guys are one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite releases on Bad Time, man. They're not even, they don't play a lot. They're all members of the Best of the Worst, but I love that record. It's so good. So yeah, it's all kind of came together. Like it's coming together organically. Now things have just like since last year, since the Kill Lincoln record and Ska Against Racism and Bad Operation. It's all just kind of been like blossoming and like.
I was about to say this year, man.
And this year it's really like in a way that like Catbite realized themselves. I feel like Bad Time is kind of like I'm figuring out what I want Bad Time to be, and all the releases are like we're kind of formalizing how it works.
Yeah. You could tell, definitely.
Cool. I'm glad that it's coming off that way. And like, I'm learning how to do a record label. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, dude. I'm just like, I just want to make a bunch of records and to work with cool bands I like. And just the logistics though, of like shipping out and, We Are the Union, that was 2,000 records. It's like getting the boxes in my driveway and then like packing it in my living room and in the backyard and all this stuff. Like
that's some DIY logistics right there.
Yeah, dude, it's the logistics of it are the thing that shocked me the most,
You need to get the garage like Mike Park.
I talked to Mike, and Mike's been a huge, honestly, just since Ska Against Racism, and shout out to Ska Punk Daily, who really brought us together. Mike Park's been a huge help and super cool to me. I kind of just ask him random questions sometimes, and like, he'll just give me an honest answer, and it's super refreshing and super just cool to have somebody of that level like kind of helping me out. But yeah, we shared an order of boxes, like we ordered 5,000 boxes and we just kind of split it. So we kind of have to like figure out how that works. And yeah, it's been a lot, like kind of trying to grow. Like I'm in this point where it's like, it's uncomfortable where we're at.
Because now the reality of it hits you, and it's like, okay, now I've got like these things on my shoulders and expectation.
Yeah, it's a shit ton of work, and just literally doing the mail order is a ton of work. But also, like, I also have a day job, which I'm trying to balance the two things. Because Bad Time's not at day job level yet, but maybe one day. I don't know. Hopefully my day job's not watching. But also, and luckily some people have been cool and We Are the Union came up and helped pack all their records, which was super awesome of them. And my buddy Brent helps out a lot with some of that stuff. And it's a lot though. It's a lot to take on. And also just like the weight of expectation,
Yeah.
So like we've done so much, but also there's this like, well, what's next? Like what's coming next? And luckily what's coming next is fucking cool. But like, it's always in my head. I'm like trying to plan out the next thing, and try not to, I don't want to let anybody down, but I just want to also work with cool bands that I like and work with good music that I like and hopefully work with friends or soon to be friends. So
I got to catch up with this chat here.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Jer had a very, cool comment to say, Bad Time was the platform all of these individual bands needed. There wasn't really a platform for ska bands, especially newer bands.
Yeah, and obviously there was Asian Man, and there's a label like Jump Up, but that's focused more on, there's a niche of traditional Jamaican ska, right?
Yeah.
And Asian Man, I think Mike didn't veer away from ska, but like, he started getting interested in, punk and emo and stuff on a really local level. I think that's one of the coolest things Mike does now. He really works with a lot of local bands in like the San Jose, Oakland area.
For quite some time, he's been varying it up.
Yeah, absolutely. But nobody really put a stake in the ground for ska punk. It's like, I'm doing a ska punk label. That's what I said from the beginning. I was like, nobody's doing it. I'm going to do it. Like, I know the bands. I know it's out there. Like, I know there's good music. So yeah, it just felt right. It just kind of fit. Like, I said for Kill Lincoln, I would send out demos all over the place, Asian Man to all kinds of labels, to AF and whatever. And Mike was the only person sometimes that responded, and he'd be like, he would send me a nice email saying like, it's not really my thing, but thanks a lot, and that meant a lot to me. So that kind of like informed how I want to be as like a label owner. I want to try to listen to everything and try to just be kind with people, and because I know it can mean a lot, just a little bit of encouragement from somebody you look up to can be a lot. So
Rudy Librarian jumped in here. You keep finding great bands. P.S.
They've always been out there.
Yeah, exactly.
They've always been there, and like, now we're kind of like just organizing, know, like, they've been there. And new ones are popping up. Yeah.
Jer says it really helps having the energy of each band supporting each other.
Yeah. Oh, he's talking about the Bad Time band supporting each other.
Sorry. I read that like the wrong syllable. Each Bad Time band supporting each other. Too bad. Bad Time fans are fans of all the bands.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And no, it helps like I think what they're saying about like just the bands, like all the bands want to hype each other up, and it's not like we're like, I don't know, I'm not like holding a gun to their heads and saying like, you better promote the We Are the Union record. Like you better promote Bad Operation. Like everyone's just excited and like, we want to hype each other up. Like
those records are hot, man. Joystick album. Woo!
So good. They're so fucking talented.
And they killed it with the videos too.
Yeah, they really did. They did an awesome job with the video, especially that last one. I just love like Duck in the van, like freaking out. When I saw that part, I was like, damn, like they nailed the vibe of that track. Much love to Joystick. Like they killed that album. And I'm so stoked to work with them, like, and to work with Stomp on that. And Joystick's been with Stomp, and luckily Stomp is one of those labels that has also always been supporting ska punk. I'm just stoked that we got to work together. I kind of had the US angle and Stomp handled Canada, so it's kind of a nice opportunity to work there. So
yeah, definitely. And that Ska Against Racism compilation, it's so funny because like the week before you guys announced it, we had Mike Park on Supernova Saturdays.
Did we say anything about it?
No. We brought it up. We were like, is like anything ever gonna happen again with Ska Against Racism? And he was so coy, like he didn't let on at all that he was about ready to to drop another compilation.
He did a good job being quiet about it. But yeah, dude, Sky Against, that was such a cool opportunity. And like, again, shout out to Phil at Ska Punk Daily, who really was like, I think he was talking to Mike and was like, man, like we should do some shirts. Like we could raise some money. Like maybe let's do a comp, you know, because it was in the midst of COVID. And he brought me in just as like Kill Lincoln, because we did a cover of David Duke is running for president. So we had a Skank and Pickle cover. So he was like, well, let me send this to Mike, because I'm sure he'd love it. And Mike was like, yeah, this is great. Like, let's do this. And I said, well, now that I'm involved, like, what's the plan for the comp? And they were like, oh, well, we'll try to get some bands together. And like Phil had some big ideas. And I was like, well, if you want to do a joint venture, like I'll put it on vinyl. And at first I was like, yeah, we'll do 500 copies. I was like, that's it. Like, we'll do 500 and that'll be good. And then like, once it got time to press it, I was like, well, let's do 1,000. My wife, Zelina, is the one who convinced me to do 1,000. I was like, no, let's not do 500 and it'll be so much work if we do 1,000. And she was like, no, let's do it. It's for a good cause. Like we can do it. So everyone should thank my wife for that. First of all,
turns out that still wasn't enough.
Well, it still wasn't enough. So when that sold out in an hour, when we announced it, I was like, shit, like, yeah, we got to up this pressing. Like, luckily I had enough time to, contact the pressing plant and say like, can we up this by a little bit? So we capped it at 1,500, which is all the people who are asking, why don't you do more records? Like, if you could see what 1,500 double LPs looks like in someone's living room, you would understand why we didn't do more records.
Nobody is picturing that. They're just waiting for their one album to show up in the mail.
I know, but they're literally, and because it was COVID, like, so we had plans, like Brent was going to come help and his partner Jessica, and Mike Parks said he'd come over and help pack. But it was during one of the worst downturns of COVID last year. And it actually was just me and my wife. We packed all 1,500. We did it in a weekend. We did like 2 12-hour days of packing and we got it done. Like,
so there's literal blood, sweat, and tears on some of these album covers.
Man, more than that. I've got some pains that are still sticking with me from that experience.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, it honestly though, dude, it was an honor to be a part of that project, to work with Sky Against Racism. That idea that Mike started was so important to me, and that like taught me so much just about thinking about that kind of stuff. Like between Mike Park and a band like the Boss Tones, who would like overtly be like, hey, like, I know you're having fun out there, but like, think about this stuff. Like, think about the actual idea of unity and think about racism in our scene. And, obviously we've kind of blown that up into, there are other things we need to be careful about, homophobia, transphobia, sexism. Like, we need to actually make sure it's an inclusive, good space for everyone so that we can like make better art and have a better place for more people to come into it and engage with it. It's all about like getting like more people involved and comfortable with it. I'm just honored to have been able to work on it. And it was a lot of work doing those records, but shit, man, what a cool fucking thing to be able to work on for a weekend.
For real.
It was awesome. Yeah.
So we know Catbite is the latest announcement, and I'm sure you're working on some other cool stuff. Any little tidbits? Or is that still?
I wish I could. I wish I could.
Okay. I tried.
I know you tried, man. But like, yeah, there's. I will say that, and I'll announce it here first. I think I alluded to this already, but Shape of Ska Punk 2 is coming. It's done. It's at the pressing plant. I couldn't be more stoked about it. It's like, it's going to be wild. I think people are going to be very excited. Again, it's going to be a charity compilation. So stay tuned for that.
Very cool. How many tracks is Esteban on that one?
He's on at least like 4 or 5. No shit.
I figured. That's why I asked.
He really is. Yeah, he's all over it. He could leak half the comp right now, I'm sure.
Well, hey man, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me and for us getting to know kind of the behind the scenes and like how much heart you put into what you do, all the amazing bands that you have on your label. that really
man.
do work together.
Yeah. I mean, thank you so much for reaching out and having me, you know, and like, I think what I appreciate is that you know, there's some folks in the more traditional scene that don't really want to engage with other stuff or whatever, you know, but I appreciate that you just reached out and just wanted to talk about this shit that we love, you know. we just like ska.
You know why? Because I love ska. I love a lot of different types of ska. And yes, I decidedly am playing trad ska and rocksteady.
Very well. We haven't talked enough about how good your record is. So like,
well, thank you.
It's awesome. I bought it on Bandcamp the other day.
I know. I saw this guy buys. I was like, what? I should. I was slow to getting him his own copy of it, but
well, when the vinyl's out, I'll get the vinyl too. So
yeah. Oh, and that's, gosh, I know it's like already 8:08, but the whole thing with vinyl, like,
oh, dude, it's crazy right now.
You guys are killing it with vinyl. You guys don't even make anything else but the vinyls, right?
I just do vinyl. I've done a couple CDs and flexis. I work with, you know, my partner in Japan, Takahashi 1138. He'll do CDs sometimes.
Okay.
Mostly vinyl. Yeah. I just want to keep it vinyl.
Are you having are you guys like banging your head against the wall with times of stuff being made? Because I'm reading that it's a big problem. Like vinyl is so hot right now that there's just like these huge wait times to get these things pressed.
Well, between COVID, which causes all sorts of shipping delays just because like there are surges in items being shipped. And the reason people just are now getting their joystick records is because those joystick records were on a container ship that was stuck in the port of Oakland for almost 2 months. Just because there's such an influx of like items coming in. So now actually we don't even use the container ships anymore, but that means I'm actually paying more for shipping now. So when I actually get the records shipped to me from the pressing plant that I use in Europe, it's more expensive. So yeah, and turnaround times are getting crazy, man. It's like, you know, luckily I have a pretty good thing going, I think, but it's like getting long. So we're trying my best to have a different approach to how I do releases. Like once I get something in and I know the time frame, it's like, then we'll set the release date. Like in the past, like I'd kind of have a deadline and shoot for it, and we miss it, that sucks. But luckily the rest of the stuff coming this year should all kind of be on time. But next year, you know, trying to work that out now. So nice. I don't want people to wait. I want them to have it on release day. So
yeah, it's a couple comments here from Rudy Librarian. So glad my joystick album is here. The song and video, my faves. And he said that the joystick album was worth the wait.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely is.
And then I do agree with this, Joanna Wallace. Don't let a handful of people who like trad stereotype the rest of us. So
I know it.
There's definitely, that does exist, but it's definitely not everybody. And there's room for all types of ska and discussion of all types of ska.
Absolutely. And I've met a lot of those people, you know, Blue Beat Nights in DC and bands like Eastern Standard Time and the Pie Tasters are always, I mean, we're friends, you know, like there's a lot of mutual love just over the genre and that stuff. So yeah, I know. I just wish we wouldn't fight. There shouldn't be infighting. It's dumb. It's stupid.
And sometimes the things that the fights are about are silly when you stop and think about it. Like,
it's all dumb. We're just doing this because we like it, man. Like, we're just doing it because we like, everyone just chill out.
Like a couple months ago, there was like just this surge in chatter about this term new tone ska.
Yeah. I know. And believe me, like so it was Bad Operation who came up with that. When they put that out there, when we started calling it new tone, we knew it was going to make people mad. Like we knew like people were going to be like, what the fuck is this new tone? Like, but like, we're just trying shit out, you know, like we just want to put something out there,
throw it on the wall and see what sticks,
see how people respond to it. And actually it's nice to like, it's just nice to have something to kind of wrap up what's going on. And like, man, if there's no definition of new tone, but like, I think what you're doing is new tone. That's like, you're playing ska music now, you know, you have a conscious mind about what's happening in the world. Like, yeah, that's new tone ska, right? I don't know, man. The
I
whole
like
wave
it.
discussion is bullshit, but like, yeah, but it's just what's happening now. It's a nice, catchy little label on it.
Yeah, it's Jer saying most of the people who argue about ska never really know what they're talking about. 1/3 of my covers are trad, and people love to claim I need to learn the roots.
Jeremy knows the roots backwards and forward. If you listen to some of those covers, like, and especially with the Jer stuff that's going to come out, like, yeah, they're it's all like, one drop. Like, there's like Jeremy can kind of mix between like sort of like, riffy guitar stuff, and then it's into a trad like one drop kind of beat, and like, yeah, they know what they're doing. So people need to actually go listen.
We talked to them last year on Supernova Saturdays, and
Fantastic.
I actually did get a preview. We did get a preview of some of that material. They were gracious enough to let us hear some stuff. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and what's to come is really good. I'm really excited about that.
Very cool. Well, all right. So thank you so much for your time and talking some ska with me. And thank you guys for the comments and watching. I appreciate any view, even if it's one person. Then we're all enjoying talking about ska. So
played shows to one person. I'll do a live stream to one person. I don't care. This was a fun conversation. Thanks for having me, man.
yeah, I appreciate it. And I'm taking a few weeks off. I'll be doing some traveling, so we'll be back at it, and we'll figure out who we're talking to next. But thank you guys for checking out Ska Talk with Mr. Kingpin. See you next time.